There are some kids, they don't like the physical contact. There would be no worse game on earth than rugby. If you ran into people that hard on the street, you'd be put in jail. But if you love that contact, there is no better game.
A Brisbane teenager is in intensive care after he was seriously hurt in a high school rugby match.
This is the fourth player to be seriously injured in just the last 4 weeks alone.
In your wildest dreams, who would believe that you can pack your son up with a footy bag and a pair of socks and a pair of boots and his beloved school jersey and come out the other end like that?
It all happened so fast that didn't really have time to get terrified. I knew I shouldn't scream or anything. I just had to stay calm or it might get worse.
Big push!
The injuries have rocked Queensland rugby, prompting an urgent safety review.
I didn't want to ask anyone, am I going to walk? Or am I going to be all right? Because I didn't want them to say no. I was pretty sure I'd broken my neck.
Well, a broken neck can be a catastrophic injury. To have two kids injured, both from sort of similar backgrounds, similar ages, similar schools, is really devastating.
So I'm 16 and I'm in grade 11. I played a few sports, but yeah, only one really seriously. That was rugby. I really liked it when I was a little kid. I guess I was pretty good at it, so that probably made it appeal a bit more.
I did have reservations about rugby. I think a lot of mothers do have reservations about a contact sport. Although I knew it was a losing battle.
That's Damien Hearn too. Hearn's at 8.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Shawn, my dad, is a rugby fanatic, and so I think he passed that on to both Conor and I.
Miller there, Tweedy there on either side.
It's not all we talk about, but close to. No.
That's me there, 6.
There's good strength by Nasser.
I can still remember going into my first maul, smashing in and wrestling for the ball and just thinking, gee whiz, how good is this?
I'm in year 12 now. I go to Toowoomba Grammar School. Yeah, I love boarding with all my mates, like one big family.
Winrow looks a bit better here, boys. Just pull up here.
We live 150 kilometres west of Moree. My husband manages 170,000 acres.
A bit ropey underneath, isn't it? So.
There's a feedlot and there's cotton. These are in the good years.
I love rugby. We'd been training nearly 7 times a week in preparation for the season. I was working particularly hard just because it was my last year and really wanted to make the first, and yeah, I just knew I had to give it everything I've got.
Ollie was pretty much like the cattle dog of the team. He'd run everywhere, be everywhere, just tackle like there was no tomorrow. The day of Ollie's injury was Friday, the 13th of July.
It was a nice, cool morning in Toowoomba. Really good rugby day. It was the first training session in the morning, and we're just doing training drill that we'd done thousands of times before. Took the ball in, was a little bit off balance, and with my support pushing me through from behind, hitting me from behind, it threw me off balance, and then my head hit the ground first, and I heard a massive crack in my neck and lost all feeling from my neck to my toes. It was just the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. Yeah, it was just terrible.
I have a 16-year-old boy and he's got a neck injury. He says he's got pins and needles in his fingers and his toes.
Is he having any difficulty breathing?
Having any difficulty breathing, Ollie? A little bit. Handling it well, Ollie. Just keep breathing, mate.
Do not move him unless he is in danger.
Colleen rang me and said, Boom, we're on our way to Brisbane. Ollie's got serious neck injuries and has to go to the PA. And we got to just outside of Gundawindi and the surgeon rang us and he put Ollie on. And Ollie said, Don't worry, Mum, I've got this, I'm going to smash this. And we said, You'll be right, I'll just, be positive, know how much we love you and we'll get there as quick as we can. And I don't think I've said more Hail Marys in my life between Gundawindi and Brisbane that night.
He had significant damage to his C5 and 6. Yeah, they said that there was a 90% chance that he wouldn't walk again. I went to pieces. Looking at that boy laying in the bed there was going to be devastating for himself, his family, and friends and everyone around him.
I believe in the power of positivity. I just wanted to concentrate on the fact that we still had our boy, and we would deal with whatever we had to deal with. After his surgery, he didn't have any feeling, and he also knew that he may never have any feeling. So it was quite remarkable that he was as upbeat as he was.
They told me that there's a very low chance of ever recovering. And I just needed to block that out.
So the game was on the 21st of July and it was the first game of the season. I was just thinking it's going to be a nice, relaxing afternoon.
Well, I got there early to watch all my mates play. And then, I just was warming up for my game. Yeah, I only played about the first 10 minutes before there was a scrum.
He was playing a new position that day. It was tight head prop. Their main job is to scrum, because they have to take the weight of both their team pushing from behind them and also the other team pushing against them.
There was the first scrum, and then I slipped over, and so the scrum just got reset. And then, that's when I got injured.
I've seen the boys go down before, and I know when they're injured, there's some movement. There is some movement in somewhere in their body, but there was none in Conor. I realised that something was drastically wrong because he wasn't getting up, and I could see that he was, completely paralysed. And his neck was twisted to the side. But, so I pretty much knew straight away that was it.
Yeah, I just remember kind of twisting, and then I heard a crack. And it wasn't painful, but I felt something just kind of shoot down my body. And then, I just kind of went to get up, and then I just couldn't move,
By the time I got there was a knot of people around the top end of Conor. His head was being stabilised. So I was sort of down at his hips, and I just bent down and touched him on the leg and said, "It's Shawn here, mate. I'm here." And he said, "Oh, Shawn, it's good that you're here." He wasn't panicking even then.
Mum was like, "Oh, can you feel your legs?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can," but I couldn't feel them. I lied because I knew it would. Well, I thought it would relax Mum, because she was freaking out. But yeah, no, I don't think it worked.
Conor broke his neck at 1:10. At about 5:15, we were in the foyer of the PA hospital talking to the neurosurgeon about how the operation had gone. He said he's got a C4-5 fracture dislocation.
So C4-5, that level supplies everything down to about your biceps. So his neck would work, his shoulders would work, and just a bit of his elbow movement.
They told us it wasn't a complete sever of the spinal cord, which meant that he could either get a tiny little bit of movement back, or he could make an almost full recovery. We just don't really know.
I woke up. That was probably like the first time I freaked out, really. I didn't have any feeling, I don't think. I think I knew in the back of my mind, yeah, I might not walk again.
Conor could have been super depressed and teary and asking why me coming out of the surgery, but from the very start, he's handled it like a champion.
I kind of just wanted to be stay strong, kind of. And just, yes, accept what happened to me, I guess, yeah.
Hey boys, going pretty well, still fighting for you.
Yeah, so mate, hope you have good recovery. And we're all thinking of you. And Donnie said he's
Love you, Hughes.
Yeah.
Love you, Bears. Can't wait to see you all when I get out of here.
As soon as I got there and I saw him, and he was still the same old Ollie, and he was really determined to get through it no matter what anyone said.
The day after Ollie's injury, he kind of flickered his toes a bit. And then the next day, he said, I can move my foot a little bit. And then he wouldn't stop flapping his foot.
The physios decided to try and get me standing, and I stood up quite easily. And I was a little bit off balance, but they sorted that all out, and they asked me if I would like to take a few steps, and I jumped straight into it. They actually called me a miracle. They said they've never seen anything like it.
We heard that one of the Gregory Terrace boys had been injured with very similar injuries to Ollie, and you know, and it was just like Ollie happening again.
We just felt sick to the core, just thinking of Conor and his family.
So we were very aware of Ollie from the beginning. Ollie had made huge progress. He was up walking, and it was fantastic to hear, but it was also difficult because at that stage Conor was not doing anything at all.
It was a dynamic we weren't sure how it was going to play out. Two teenage boys meeting with acute spinal cord injury. One of the possible sensitivities for Conor was that he was not getting return at the same rate Ollie was. I was worried that possibly he might think this is somehow a reflection on me as a person.
It was pretty annoying to see, I guess. Just yeah, this kid was just walking after a couple of weeks. I was still just lying in bed.
Tweedy family, the farmers. Thanks for well wishes.
There can be two people who look like they've had an injury in a very similar way, maybe the same sort of accident, but the injury that's been caused to the spinal cord can be quite different.
Hopefully you can come see him in person sometime.
For the person who's having a slower recovery, it probably means that the spinal cord was more severely damaged in the first place.
Ollie was in the bed next to me in the rehab unit. Became pretty good mates, pretty quickly.
It wasn't awkward because he was really happy for me and I was just really positive for him, so the really good bond we had, it was just mates having a chat kind of thing.
If neither of us got injured, we would have versed each other in the last round of GPS rugby. It's a pretty big deal to both of us, rugby.
And we were thinking, yay, this is going to be a great friendship because he's a great kid, Ollie. However, Ollie just got too good and he was discharged.
The factors that are not with no association with quality of life include impairment, so the level of injury and the completeness of the injury.
I think that Beck and Shawn have handled this quite differently than most other families.
Hands across your chest. And go. That's it. And back to the middle.
Shawn is known around the world as an expert in disability.
The measurer applies gentle upward lift.
The classification used at the Paralympics is the Tweedy classification.
I was blown away by people who had had these terrible injuries, but all just getting on with things. So the family became involved in my work. We would go and visit people with disabilities in hospitals. We'd go to sporting events, so they've been exposed.
He nearly doesn't see these catastrophic spinal cord injuries as a real disability because I think he sees so many people who come through them and do some amazing things. And that's fine. I'm a very practical person, and being a physiotherapist, we're always looking at people and what can we do to make this person better.
It's extraordinary to think that somebody who spent their life with people with spinal cord injuries would have a son with a spinal cord injury. You wouldn't read about it.
Get a video.
I think at about 3 weeks, Conor started moving his wrist, which was such a great relief because we knew that there were probably some messages getting down below where the injury was.
Yeah, boys, just here in the spinal unit, working hard. No excuses here. What's yours?
And then at 4 weeks, he started getting some elbow extension, which is just a huge help because it means that you can transfer yourself from chair to chair.
Squeezing it in, excellent. And then pushing out straight, go, 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 go. That's really good. Excellent.
And then at 6 weeks, things really started to move. Like his fingers really started, like a little twitching of his fingers. And then just a few days after that, and he came out of the shower and said, I just moved my legs. And we went, you did not. You didn't move your legs.
Yeah, no guarantees here.
It hasn't translated to anything that's helpful at this stage, but it is very hopeful that over the coming months or years, some of those movements in his legs will be able to help him be a bit more independent for the rest of his life.
Rugby Australia is investigating the 4th spinal injury in a month.
All of this has prompted the principals of the 9 schools involved in this competition to come together today to hold crisis talks.
There's no doubt that rugby's come under a lot of scrutiny as a result of this cluster with Ollie, Conor and the other boys, no doubt.
The game's administrators are now reviewing safety after the spate of serious injuries.
Rugby Australia has put in place a serious injury review process to see if there's anything we could have done better. So in the education and coaching leading up to the injuries, during the injury process itself, but also at the back end of that, what we've done to support those players.
I just don't think big boys should be playing little boys with immature spines in a collision contact sport.
I think in any activity there's some inherent risks involved. If you can go into the surf, you can be riding your bike, you can be in a motor vehicle accident. It's just one of the consequences of life.
Rugby legend Tim Horan believes more needs to be done.
We've got to look at ways to keep trying to educate coaches, educate players on the safety aspects of the game.
I don't think that any changes could have stopped my injury anyway. yeah, it's just something that we always do, and just a freak accident.
Like, I think it's just meant to be like a bit too personal.
Mum's pretty keen on me to sign a contract and say that I'll never run onto a rugby field again. And I think for the sake of Mum's sanity, I'll give rugby a rest for next year.
Ollie had his 6-week checkup. We had the opportunity to go and visit Conor.
Hey! Good to see you. Good to see you too. Oh.
And it was as if they were long-lost mates, you know, that were reuniting.
Well, mate. Long time no see. The difference in Conor, it was just amazing. Astounding, the difference in how far he'd come. Ollie's hoping you can get ticked off for driving today, Shawn. So
I did see.
That's Ollie's big goal.
Talked to him for a good hour or so, just talking about normal stuff, how the physio is, how all the people in the rehab are, and just having a good chat like any mates would, and yeah, giving each other a bit of stick about the rugby.
Best of luck, Ollie.
Thanks, mate.
Keep up the good work. See you, mate.
They're young men, and you know, they've got something in common. It's a life-changing experience, and only those two together know what that's like.
Conor's been coming home for day visits, and yeah, it's just so nice to sort of have the family back together. So he can just sort of lie on the couch and be his usual teenager. It's definitely where we need him.
All the doorways are really narrow, and we've got a big step to get in the front door, so some things are going to have to change.
To see what we could do to make it work for Conor.
It's just one level, is that right? All the way through the front door.
The future that we thought we had is going to be completely different.
Yeah, no, we'd take that panel, that unit out there.
We don't know how this is going to finish up. That uncertainty is, it's tough to live with.
In a year's time, we'll have a better idea.
Exactly what you need.
Yeah. We'll have a look at the front door. Is a problem?
I want to be really kind of independent. I don't want to have to rely on other people to move me around. And that's kind of, I guess I'm pretty kind of self-conscious about that. Not being kind of such a hassle. Move around. I want to get to the stage, hopefully when I'm just walking, I can just go out and do whatever I want, whenever I want, by myself, without everyone else knowing about it, kind of.
I think he's quite accepting of the fact that he possibly will end up in a wheelchair for some of the time anyway. Maybe for us, it's not such a big thing because we have seen so many people who are in wheelchairs. He's already shown an interest in wheelchair rugby.
Yeah, it's good to see him improving really quick and everything. It keeps us all hopeful and happy and stuff. So it's good. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if he can't. If it stays how he is now, it doesn't matter. Still the same person.
I'm pretty motivated if there's something that I really want to do, and that might be now going to the Paralympics or something would be pretty cool, but hopefully I'm not able to do that because I'm too able-bodied, hopefully.
I'm back home now on the farm. Just enjoying it, playing with Dozer, my dog, and helping Mum in the garden a bit.
It's been so wonderful to see Ollie just going about his days fairly similarly to how he always has. But he'll never play rugby again. There will be a few things that Ollie will never have again that were very, very important to him.
I've got hypersensitivity, so I can't really feel the cold. I've got nerve damage in my left arm, it just aches and aches, but it's starting to get better.
Very exciting.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Ollie is just so excited to be back at school with his mates.
They've just gone off my year 11 marks, so don't have to worry about the end of year 12.
Yeah, they are.
Look after yourself.
Yeah, I will.
Be good.
See you, love you, bye. Thanks, boys. Thanks for looking after him.
Ollie's going to go to university next year to study a dual degree in business and ag. I was so proud of him before, and you know, you just couldn't be prouder of him. Like, he's just, you know, one you know, tough, successful kid.
Smile.
Secret.
And back. Yep. 106. 107.
In the last couple of weeks, Conor's really started to move. He started to get some muscle movement in his legs.
Good. All right, move forward. 1, 2, 3, forward. Drive.
I can like stand up, like assisted now.
Thank you.
I've kind of got to like think of like each individual muscle to like activate it, and then like I get like crazy, just like my blood pressure just drops, and I'm super like woozy, and like I can barely see, and then I've got to kind of think of like tensing my core, standing upright, like firing off my quads, like planting my like feet, and like curling my toes over and everything. Like I've got to think of so much stuff.
You try both hands off.
It's pretty cool. It doesn't really feel like my body, like when I'm standing up. And it's just, yeah, it's sick, just like being back up, like tall again, and standing up pretty much by myself.
Lean forward. Thumb out. Nice and easy. Very elegant.
I come out kind of thinking like, yeah, like I could go all the way, kind of.
Where is your time?
Conor's going to be in the spinal unit for a total of 6 months, so he's got another 3 months there.
Brand newy.
I have my semi-formal on Monday. It's my birthday as well. Double event.
I think I might have nailed that.
I've got a cool tie, a bit floral.
Because you're nearly as tall as me.
I don't really like dressing up or anything, but yeah, definitely socialising's good fun.
Let's go on, Twiggy.
Oi!
Happy birthday, mate.
Jimmy is going to be meeting me at the hospital. Our dates are really close mates.
He still gets out there and putting himself out for social situations, laughs about everything. Super inspiring to see, I think.
He tolerated me coming up and giving me a kiss and taking some photos.
That, to me, that was super special. Yeah, it gave me goosebumps. And, yeah, we're really proud of him and how he's conducted himself.